Hello, junkies. Hello, junkies. How you doing? There's a racket in someone's pants. That's the name of this episode.
That's unfortunate.
It's all about the racket in your pants, you junkies. Hello, junkies. Who do we have in the chat room today? Let me get set up here. We're a little bit late. 1 minute. Shut up. 1 minute. You guys don't need to get all rackety pants with us because of that now, I don't think. 23 people. People are jumping on Facebook like crazy, eh? What do you think of that?
I think it's great.
I'm going to mute you while you get that set up.
I thought it would be. Sorry.
That's okay. You guys, I literally took a 5-minute nap. And now we are getting ready. As A gets her mic ready, we're going to switch over to... Wait, let me hear you, babe.
Is this better?
Oh, my goodness.
Hello,
sounds
friends.
Luscious. Luscious. Hello, everybody. Welcome to SIGLERinPLACE, the July 9th?
July 9th, yes.
The July 9th episode of SIGLERinPLACE, otherwise known as Is That a Racket in Your Pants? That is the name of this episode. Getting a little bit risque, but not too much. Not too much. Got people coming in. Oh, my goodness. Look at all the chats. Let's see here. Oh, Tom Thompson
Hi,
says,
Rich.
Frothy beverage. Check A and Scott on the big screen. Best chat room he's been in since the 90s. Holy cats, that's a compliment.
That's a big compliment.
That is a
in
compliment.
the 90s, I was mostly on bulletin boards, but it was great.
The BBS.
Yeah, exactly. I was a big fan. I spent a lot of time on director Kevin Smith's BBS.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Noisy, Joshua, Sherry, Jessica, Richard, Daniel, Rhonda Pattenford, David Stubblefield. Hello, welcome, Dan Williams, Mike,
Games.
Nastasi, Trevor Haney.
Hey,
You guys,
Dawn, nice to see you.
John Ward, look, Kelly McCart. Look at people Jessica J. Howden coming in. People are pouring in Dinara Games as usual.
Drinar, I think.
Drinara? Excuse me. Okay. It moves so fast. I can't keep track.
I know. Hey, Sherry.
It moves
hey, Dr.
so
Dan
fast.
Baker.
So
Happy birthday, Mama Baker.
so fast. Okay, we've got hellos catching up with everybody on the camera. We have this is the 143rd anniversary of the first Wimbledon.
It's true.
It's true. That's why on our show open screen we have the world champion at various times, the Williams sisters.
I love them so much.
One of the most dominant forces in the history of professional sports.
One of my favorite things is and it's been circulating the last few days since Wimbledon is canceled this year. There's this great interview with British tennis player and star Andy. Oh, what just happened?
You're just popping your peas a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Step back. Andy Rooney? Andy Richard?
No, Andy Murray.
Andy Murray. Okay.
Where a reporter says like, oh, so there's been one Triple Crown star from the U.S. or there's something about from the U.S. and he's like, you mean male star, right? Because among the most dominant players in the world are the Williams sisters. And I love that he had absolutely no shame in correcting that reporter. I love that.
You chat for a second. Here we go.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Now, I will chat for a second as we switch over. Hold on. Don't do it yet. Let's mute this. Play a new game called Mute That Mic. Mute that mic. We're going to mute that mic.
I'm back.
Oh.
Still back.
I had a whole bunch. I had a whole bunch more to the song.
I know, but maybe next time we don't take a 5-minute nap. I didn't take a 5-minute nap. I was making Pimm's cups.
I was running a little bit behind. Speaking of Pimm's cups, let's show them off. We're drinking.
Yeah,
Why are we drinking Pimm's cups?
So
AK?
we are actually drinking. I can't see that camera. It'd be easier if I could.
I know it. I'll get you hooked up right there.
Thank you. These are actually Blackberry Elderflower Pimm's cups because I'm out of Pimm's. Pimm's is a liqueur made from vodka is I think the base. Maybe some wine is in there and a whole bunch of spices. And they used to have a whole bunch of recipes. And you can look up the history. It's long and storied, but it's essentially an aromatic liqueur. Right now, I think Pimm's makes Pimm's number 1, Pimm's number 3, which are different recipes, very aromatic, very herb filled. I think vodka based, and then they make this as well. And this is the Blackberry Elderflower, which are two of Scott's very favorite
love those things
flavors. So we have a bottle of this, but are out of actual Pimm, so we're making from the Pimm's website, a Blackberry Elderflower Pimm's cup. And it's very much like a Blackberry Smash, sort of, because this one, the label says, is made with vodka, French liqueur, which I don't know what that means, with blackberry, elderflower, and other natural flavors, and caramel and certified colors.
Shoot. It's on our chart. I'm never taking a nap again. Tell them about...
I'm not done talking about the Pimm's cup.
Oh, we're still talking about the Pimm cup.
So in the Pimm's cup, in the traditional Pimm's cup, which you use with Pimm's number 1, you put Beth. I know you're in the chat room, so let me know if I get anything wrong. I think it's oranges, lemons, cucumbers, and maybe mint, but I'm not sure about the mint. And then in a Blackberry Elderflower Pimm's cup, you put fresh mint, which I got from my garden, which I just started in lockdown, and I'm super proud of, and it's really tall, and I don't know what to do with it now, and blackberries. So we're going to talk about that. I already turned off my stuff, and I think you might be doing that same thing now.
I'm actually letting everybody know on our text thing. Speaking of text things, those of you who have not seen this yet, we have this wonderful, wonderful little thing where we are set up to text all of you urgent notices like earthquakes, tornadoes, and when we go live with Sigler in Place.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you tell them we have not... What? Oh, where are we?
I don't know where we are. Can we be there?
Can we be here?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Wait.
Maybe not. There we go.
Hey,
Thank you.
there.
So he's going to text everybody on the community. If you want to dial that number that you just saw, we can do that.
Text the number.
Text the number. And then I'm going to tell you, there's a whole bunch of feedback about the Siglocktails, which is a gorgeous name that Beth Pate Copenhaver made up. Sigler lockdown cocktails. So I'm going to attempt to share classic drink recipes with you guys on Tuesdays of every week. Here's how it's going to work. There were a zillion questions about it. The Pimm's Cup is not one of those things. It's just that today is the anniversary of Wimbledon's first launch, so we're celebrating with their traditional drink. That said, starting on this Monday, I'm going to post a recipe for a French 75 on scottsigler.com, and it will be posted by noon Pacific time on Monday. You need gin, you need some kind of bubbly wine like Prosecco or Champagne, and you need lemon juice, and you might need simple syrup depending on the recipe. Those are the things you will need. I'll post the recipe on Monday. I will make the drink for you on camera on Tuesday, and we will drink it on Thursday as well. I'm going to start with gin drinks. I know a lot of you guys don't drink gin. You are almost always able to substitute vodka in it. It'll definitely change the flavor profile, but it'll also definitely be drinkable. So if you want to participate in drinking the same things we're drinking, but you can't drink gin, or you don't drink vodka, or you don't have bubbles or whatever, don't worry. We're probably going to be locked down forever. Yep. And we will make plenty drinks. But what I'm trying to do is make sure that if you buy a bottle of liquor, you can use it thoughtfully. And it's not just, hey, get this really hard to find, and I'm just going to make one drink because I don't really like whatever. I'm going to try and get you to use that a couple, 2-3 times through the month. And then we'll move on to whiskey drinks or bourbon drinks or vodka drinks.
And then a lager drink.
Yes. And then we're going to have one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer on your birthday.
I like when A counters with a drink joke like I just made. But let's go back to it real quick. The text me. Oh, yes. Now we're looking at this camera over here. Jot this down. If you're not following me here, jot it down. Subscribe.
Jotting.
You basically just text it. You'll get a couple of canned texts back, and then I will eventually text you with stuff. But it's not my real personal number. So messages you send me here may or may not be answered depending on the deadline situation. Back to the main camera.
And also be sure that if, I know there's a handful of secret agents in the chat room, and there are folks who do chat with Scott. This is a problem I had on my phone. If you text that number and you sign up for it, your phone might just squish them all together, and that screws up your contacts. But the 619 number is not his personal cell phone number. So if you're a Sigler secret agent or something like that, like I had the trouble where I tried to text him about dinner and accidentally sent it the wrong place. So I don't even know if he got it.
Some guy named Harvey in Paducah, Kentucky. Paducah. I always mess that up. Paducah.
Yes. My word.
I think there should be a town called Bazooka, Kentucky, where they blow stuff up. That's what I think they should do.
I think we have enough violence.
No, this is Target blowing things up.
Oh,
like,
that's okay.
What are those things you hit? The stuffed animals that you little kids get blindfolded.
Piñatas?
Yeah, like piñatas. You blow piñatas up with in Bazooka, Kentucky. So we did mention this is the first time in 143 years that Wimbledon is not going in peacetime. It was canceled in wartime, right?
It was canceled in World War I for several years. It was canceled in World War II for several years. This year they're not doing that. It's interesting. I read a little bit about it. Some of it has to do with there's only a certain amount of time that they can manage the grass in the climate where Wimbledon is. And so they can't move it to November because they won't have grass. Yeah. So I found that very interesting.
Which is why you never hitchhike in Wimbledon, because it's gas, grass, or ass, and the grass is only limited in number.
I can tell with certainty you've never been to Wimbledon.
No,
because there's buses and walking routes and lots of tube stations.
Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about. All right, later in the show, A is going to talk about Ira and Texas. Some of you know the ordeal she went through 2 4th of July ago. And we are actually working on a screenplay eventually called 4th of July in Irann, Texas.
It was a year ago.
1 year ago?
Yeah.
I think it recovered very well.
Well, yeah, I am currently working on our taxes, and I realized that spending almost 3 weeks in Irann, Texas, absolutely derailed my functionality and productivity. Because I'm like, did I not pay quarterly taxes in July? And I did not.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk about that. But first, we're going to talk about, we have our first actual, genuine advertiser.
Oh, we do. Show. A new advertiser.
Except it's not a real advertiser for the stream. It's an advertiser for the podcast. But since we have been going crazy on this stuff a little bit, we're just going to share it with you real quick. Our sponsor, who's sponsoring the podcast, our first new sponsor in
quite a while,
many moons, is called Green Chef, as you can see by the logo.
Yeah.
greenchef.com/Sigler80. If you listen to the podcast every week, you will hear it. If you don't, that is $80 off the meal delivery service Green Chef, which we're going to talk about here in a second, and free shipping for your first shipment. A has been making stuff. And, this is, we're just going to go through these. This is how it looks when it's taken out of the box.
No. That is actually how it looks when it's ready to prepare. So the first thing you get all the packaging. There's probably a shot that I sent you of that. But you get a whole, this has grape tomatoes, and I chop those in half. And I think the carrots come shredded like that. But the celery and the scallions and the radishes come whole. The tomatoes come whole. You guys have probably used meal kits. I have never used one before. I love Green Chef because it is eminently recyclable, the packaging, and it's written on the packaging how you do it. So there's on every single Ziploc bag, every single, the packaging that is the insulative packaging, it's written right on there. Here's how you recycle it. You have to take it out of the plastic, and then the paper can go in cardboard recycling. The plastic can go in all that. And I love that. And it's actually pretty fun. I'm using ingredients that I don't often use. Neither one of us are giant fans of celery except for the texture, which I think might be a lot of people.
I hate everything to do with celery.
Except you loved this particular menu item, which has celery in it.
Don't contradict me with facts on our show.
Well, please. That's a thing that I do a lot.
I know. Yeah. And then somebody mentioned in the comments, Beth was like, that looks suspiciously like kale.
Oh my God, you guys, what is with the kale? Is it that it's super portable? Because while I was doing this, we have one more to go tomorrow. There's 3 meals in a kit, and 2 of them so far have included kale. Doesn't look like tomorrow's will include kale. But while I was doing this, I have a friend who's blue aproning, and she's had kale 3 times this week. So I'm not sure what's going on with that.
No, it does not come chopped up in the box. Everything comes whole and relatively fresh. We've eaten it twice. There was 1 bad tomato, but the rest of it was good.
Yeah.
Real quick, we have to tell them about, before we move on to the pictures of the sandwiches, which were lights out sandwiches, tell them about quickly tell them about your discovery with kale, thanks to Green Chef.
Oh, yeah. So the kale actually comes partially torn, but you still have to destem it. And I don't know if you guys use a lot of kale. I don't, because you have to destem it all. And it's still kind of woody. But the ingredients in the Green Chef, or the directions in the Green Chef box said, once you destem it and you put it in the bowl, mix it with a little bit, like a tiny bit of the dressing that comes with it, or a little bit of olive oil, and then quote unquote massage it. And if you massage it, that breaks down some of the fibrous cell walls and whatever. So I have been cooking since I was 8 years old, and I was like, well, I'm not going to just stick my hands into that bowl full of Italian dressing. So I put it in a Ziploc bag and mooshed it all up like that, and it's the best kale I've ever had. So if you eat kale or you want to try and eat kale, I'm not even sure kale is a real food, but as opposed to a salad bar decoration, it's so much better if you do that massaging.
And then this is a mixing up some goodness. And then we get to, and I was quite impressed with this.
Yeah, that's the white bean salad sandwich. Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think I've ever used white beans as a chicken substitute in this regard, and it was delicious.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And then another picture of the sandwich. And I think I have, because I love the sandwich. And what is this? Is just getting ready to mix everything up.
Yeah, that's on the white stuff is the white bean salad, and obviously the kale salad. The kale had, I think, radishes and purple carrots and tomatoes and slivered almonds, maybe, and that's how it shows up. Yeah.
Also, I don't know how to correct horizontal pictures that are vertical on my computer, but when they get brought into
and
OBS,
happens a lot to me with Signal and also with GroupMe. But anyway, I am quite impressed, and I think we'll continue to do this. I cook a whole lot, and I always have, and especially now in lockdown, I cook a whole lot.
Yep.
And this is kind of fun because I am trying things that I wouldn't otherwise try, I don't think. And like I would have never made a white bean salad for sandwiches. That's not how my brain works, but I'm going to make it again.
Tom Thompson, I will say, yes, massaging kale does lead to a happy ending.
And John Vizcar, yes, massage it until it's not woody. I didn't even see that coming until...
Do we get dinged for the swear jar if we're reading what people write?
No, they get dinged for the swear jar. We're sending you invoices.
We're going to send invoices, and we'll start a new charity. Speaking of charities...
Oh, wait. Somebody actually says, sounds awesome, but no bread for me. I actually am the same way. I had... in the last 3 or 4 years, I've had trouble eating too much bread. Anything that's kind of doughy. I mentioned on the last cast, I don't eat a lot of cake. It's for the same reason. So I actually had mine with lavash crackers, and that way he got 2 sandwiches out of it over 2 days, which is kind of nice too.
Hold on, I gotta be funny for a second.
Oh, Ruth, yeah, I think chickpea salad sandwiches I will probably try. I really never even thought about using it like you'd use tuna fish or like you'd use canned chicken or whatever, but it was great, and it had the right bite and the right crunch. It was really, really fun. So I'm pretty excited to be 49 years old and learning to cook new things, having cooked literally for 41 years. My mom used to always say, which still makes me cringe a little bit, some people were put here to be cooks and some people were put here to be sex symbols. And I would go, Mom! So I don't need to hear that from you, Mom! So she let me start cooking at 8 years old, which I guess means she was the sex symbol and I'm the cook, but that works for me.
And some people were put on this earth to be sex symbols and eat the food the cooks make. We're right here. I'm happy to always chow down on the food.
Hey, Maria.
Coming up, we have a great, interesting question that we'll talk about from a junkie, and then we're going to talk about A's experience in Irann, Texas, which she is finally ready to talk about. It's taken a while. But before we get to any of that,
we have a new sponsor. Well, we have the same sponsors we had on Tuesday.
This is our sponsor.
Yeah, so we focus on a charitable or donation-based quote-unquote sponsor. We don't obviously get any monetary compensation from them. We do make a donation for everybody that we sponsor here. We do make a donation throughout. So if you guys are interested, this is specifically, Donors Choose is specifically a way to get classroom projects funded. Notoriously, especially in the U.S., mostly in the U.S., in learning about this charity, I learned that this is a particularly U.S. sort of problem where we have defunded schools so much and taken away art programs and taken away this, that it's difficult for some of those basic skills to get taught unless the teacher themselves creates the project and almost always pays for all those supplies.
Yeah, it's
so
a big
this
deal.
is a way to set up sponsorship of specific projects for specific classrooms, and this was submitted as a consideration for the weekly charity quote unquote sponsor by a junkie who is a teacher and said it changes so much of his curriculum to be able to do this. And it harkens back to kind of when I was in school, I had music class. I had to learn to play the recorder and all that sort of stuff. And they don't have that anymore, which I didn't know. And you had art class, right? And Mrs. Steenkamp was my art teacher in elementary school, and I still remember things she taught me. And so this gives some of that back.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So that is our sponsor of the week. We switch back to Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Whoopsh. There we go.
I'm going to have to find out.
You're going to have to watch some Parker Lewis Can't Lose. If anybody's ever watched Parker Lewis Can't Lose, just throw me a Parker Lewis Can't Lose in the comments. And they pointed out he can lose because he got canceled.
Yeah, somebody else said that on the cast last time.
That show ran 3 seasons, dog. That show ran 3 seasons. So that gets you into syndication. Justin Anderson says, if we put money in the swear jar and it goes to charity, is that the Swearity charity?
You know what? Yes, it is. And Trevor has actually asked, can you virtually send money to the Sigler swear jar? And no, but what I would encourage you to do is donate. There's so many donations so many things you could donate to, literally $1, $2, $3. There's a zillion medical GoFundMes, things like that. Like, if you want to do that because you swore on the cast, that's cool. Donate $1 to somebody else.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a lot of donating dollars going around. We don't know when or if the utter economic collapse is going to come, but there's trouble on the horizon. The storm clouds are gathering, and the cows are giving curdled milk, which I believe is an ominous portent of doom in the Old West. I believe. A's not listening to
I don't know anything about the Old West or portents of doom.
Portents of doom. Different from a pants tent of doom, which is a very, very different situation. But a portent of doom, actually, neither one is good. I don't think
either one is a real thing.
Oh, portents of doom are very, very real.
I mean, they are in fantasy novels.
Yeah, fantasy novels. Also, what are the other mandatory things in a fantasy novel?
Y'all, here's the thing. I try so hard. If you have fantasy novels that meet this requirement, please text me, because I want so badly to like fantasy novels. But in everyone, there's a journey.
Yes.
During which everybody gets dirty and sweaty.
Oh, very.
And then they go to a tavern and they have stew out of a pot and beer out of a flagon, or maybe they have mead out of a flagon. I don't know. Yep. And then they're dirty, wenches? Sweaty, and chilly when night comes. You can't be sweaty and chilly, people. If you do, you should definitely see a doctor, and you should put down your flagon of frickin' mead.
I think you've never had a portent of doom with a pants tent of doom and had a cold sweat. A cold sweat. Yes, you can actually have. I've read about cold sweats many times in books. A lot of them are fantasy books. The other thing I've read about...
It's also true in zombie books and zombie novels.
The other thing I've read about, which I find to be ludicrous because it's a trope and it's a cliche, is she was so tired she couldn't sleep. And I'm like, well, then she's going to die. If you're so tired you can't sleep, you're going to get more tired because you can't sleep. Then you're going to die because you didn't get any freaking sleep. So that's one that really bothers me.
As a person who has had lifelong issues with my sleep patterns, I totally get the idea of being too tired to sleep, but I have never been that way after an entire day walking on a dusty road, carrying everything I own on my trusty steed, and whatever. Jen
Sherwood says she's okay with wenches, and I believe that is something we can all get behind.
Yeah, I'm okay with wenches too. And Theodore P. Graham says, I don't think A enjoys the outdoors at all. Listen,
that is very true.
I am not. We're going to talk about this in a minute. I grew up in New York City, and I can't say that you're exactly wrong. I do like the outdoors, but I like it. Have you seen my very, very dark complected self? I can't really stand too much sun. So you're not exactly wrong, either.
Not exactly wrong. Next week, we're going to try and switch from OBS, which is a free open source platform that we used to put this show on. You see all the fancy stuff. We're going to switch to Streamlabs OBS. Only partially because the acronym for Streamlabs OBS is SLOBS. And I'm happy to use software that's called SLOBS. And the other thing is we should be able to introduce a widget. So I believe you can all see the chat from all the different services. So I think Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, you guys will be able to see each other's chat. It's a very active chat room. Hello, Sigler. Oh, Look at that.
I know.
First
Say
hello
just
Siglers.
answered. Yep.
So it'll be a very active chat room. There's a few other cool things that it will do, but we are as we do this for you all, with 2 hours of live TV on the fly a week. We do it live 2 hours a week to entertain you and put a smile on your face in the midst of this crazy kooky. Is it kooky pandemic?
I mean, not at all kooky.
I think it's
kooky.
kooky.
Kooky kind of says fun and tiki, and it's going to be fine. We're going to have drinks. And while we have the drinks, it's not fine. And it is certainly not kooky.
I will tell you this, that when the number of COVID infections goes up, that is a portent of doom. There you go. I used it in a sentence.
Alan Sloan says that I need 1,000 SPF, and that is entirely true. I'm one of those people who never really tans. I just burn and then peel and then burn and then peel. So for me, this right behind me that you see behind me, that's sort of my SPF. I try to. I mean, to be fair, I walk the dogs a handful of times a day, and when I do, I wear a big sun hat, and now I wear a mask, so I think I'm taking care of, like, my sensitive facial skin won't age prematurely for sure, but yeah, I try really hard to cover up. I've also had skin cancer. I've had basal cell carcinoma when I was in my 20s, so I try really hard to always wear an SPF. So if you're a person who doesn't, I don't care what gender you are, invest in an SPF, because the trouble getting rid of skin cancer is so much worse than a little bit of spray on your face before you go out.
Yes. I will also point out that if you are practicing nudist, please invest in SPF, because...
And maybe a little hat for your business, like some kind of like SPF fabric.
Maybe a merkin. Maybe, well then, if it's a merkin, are you still a nudist? Or can you not have anything?
Honestly, I have no idea.
We are A's not outdoors inclined.
I'm not naked and outdoors inclined.
Just as Jules said in one of my favorite movies, Pulp Fiction, well, my girlfriend's a vegetarian, which means basically I'm a vegetarian. A doesn't like the outdoors, so basically I don't like the outdoors either. But we don't know anything about the nudist lifestyle. Nothing. And also, before we met, you traveled and... No, it was right when we first started to work together. You went to Mexico somewhere with your family, and he sent me one photo. He had to pick up. You had to pick up you were teaching a class the day you got back or the day after you got back, which was a weekend, and so I had to arrange for your computer to get picked up by the Apple Store, by your co-teacher and everything else. And I was like, you have to send me a picture of your driver's license. And the one photo I got was of him laying on the beach in like a fishing hat that covered his whole head. That's correct. And like beach towels swaddling him. I'm not even kidding. Like not like a baby burrito, but pretty close to the baby burrito version. And I was like, that seems lovely. I can't remember exactly where we went, but Mexicali, something along those lines. It was a pointy part, like it points down and it's rounded like a peninsula. And at any rate, it was a lovely. When we were in the resort area, it was lovely, and sitting by the pool consisted of being fully dressed with towels all over and an umbrella in a beach chair, because, oh my gosh, the sun is not kind to people of my complexion. Not kind at all. Before this scrolls off our screen, Not So Short 23 on Twitch says, you know what would be a cool idea? If they had a P.O. box, we can send them fan mail since they aren't having a Sigler Fest this year, and then they can open fan mail live. Who agrees? That's way easier than you think. That's a great idea. Because you can just send anything you want. Oh. Questions, celebrations, all that stuff, fan mail, anything you want to info@emptyset. And if it's sort of a fan mail letter, I'll print it out and we'll read it. So it'll look just like this anyway. So you don't have to worry about getting out to the post office or going out of the house if you're in lockdown or anything like that. But do that for sure. And I'll get some lemon juice and put it on there and like burn the edges of the lighter. And it appears the messenger has arrived with the communication, a scroll from across the mountains delivered by crows. And then I'll read to you in my old-timey wizard voice. We do have some, wait. You just talked about the Siglocktails, yeah? Yeah, the Siglocktails. I told you about the Siglocktails? Yeah, well, tell you, I was vamping before, so I'll officially tell you guys now. Like I said earlier, it was a little bit confusing in Sigler Junkies today, but this officially starts next week. What we're going to be doing is on Monday, I will post the recipe. This Monday, the recipe is for the French 75. The French 75 is a cocktail made out of champagne, lemon,
and gin
And that'll
traditionally.
be at scottsigler.com. It'll
Yep.
be the lead post on a Monday.
On Monday, yeah. And but if you're not a gin drinker and you'd like to try it with vodka, I've had that too, actually in Paris at Harry's Sports Bar. They make it with vodka, crazily enough. So I had both there, and they were both delicious. But we're going to do that on Monday. We'll be making gin or champagne drinks for the next couple of weeks, probably more gin drinks than champagne drinks, because I don't want you guys to have bottles that you buy just for one drink. I want you to, if you want to play along. There is obviously no obligation to play along. You can,
None. Zero.
There's been a handful of folks who are like, good on ya, have fun. I'm going to have my bourbon. And I'm
Yeah. But I
absolutely rock
I
on.
want you to have the bourbon, but do drink along with us and just pretend. Just pretend.
Yeah. Or Kool-Aid or whatever it is you drink.
And then on Tuesday, we still have to come up with a new camera for this, which we will do on Tuesday. For the open of the show, A's going to make the drink. She is literally going to walk you through making the drink. So it's participatory and fun. If you want to make a Shirley Manson version, is that right?
Definitely not Shirley Manson.
That's
Do you mean Shirley Temple?
Oh, that's very different. Is that very different?
Well, I don't know those women personally, but if I was
Okay.
guessing on their sort of public personas, then yes, they're
Very,
quite different.
very, very different. So you can make the Shirley Manson version with the booze, the Shirley Temple version without the booze. It doesn't matter. What matters is you're participating and you're making something, and we're walking you through a recipe and how to make a drink. And gosh darn it, you're watching the show because you need something to do, and we are going to put the power in your tiny little dexterous flesh paws. And then we're going to drink it on Tuesday as the show goes on. And then on Thursday, we're going to drink it again, but without making it again. So Monday, go see the recipe at scottsigler.com. Tuesday, mix the drink with us, have a couple of beverages or whatever beverage you choose. On Thursday, repeat the last two parts, have a beverage with us or a beverage of your choice.
And remember, I'm going to give you my very specific recipe, but I have a ton of bottles of liquor. So it's very possible that I'll make on Monday or Tuesday, I'll make a gin with St. George's gin. And George, I just realized that
Gordy.
the reason that you were going to choose George is because your name is George. You said on the last cast, George, I'd pick St. George's for reasons, but now I understand that.
Same mark. Shirley Manson would taste like garbage. Very nicely
very
done. Plus 10
nicely
experience
done.
points for that one.
Absolutely. So I'm going to probably make it with different gins, but you don't have to pick the specific liquor that I'm saying, the specific bottle. If you like gin, but you don't like Hendrix or whatever, cool. Whatever gin you want, it'll still work.
Now, here's the fun part. We need a logo for the Siglocktail, which is a portmanteau. You may look that up.
That was Jude who said a Shirley Manson would be garbage.
What? No, they both said it.
Oh,
Then
neat.
Jude said it.
Very fun.
Well done. The Siglocktail is a portmanteau created by Beth Copenhaver, which is a Sigler lockdown cocktail, a Siglocktail. I'm quite impressed. Since we're going to be doing this a lot because it's gonna create like 10 to 15 minutes of content every Tuesday, and we are looking for fun stuff to do, I am introducing a contest. A contest.
I saw that in the notes. I didn't
contest.
see that until just now, but that works.
Because I didn't clear it with the CEO, I slipped it into the script, and it's too late to stop me now. We are going to give away $25 in a gift certificate for $25 at scottsigler.com/store. So you can spend it on anything that you like for the person who designs the best Siglocktail logo. The logo must be orange on black. Probably should be layered, so I can just take the orange part out. Orange logo on black. It's got to be a PNG or a ping or Pangea, as they call it west of the Mississippi.
Nobody calls it a Pangea. Nobody calls it a Pangea.
So it's up to you guys. And we are, if you're not a professional artist, we don't care. I would like you to do your best to create the logo. We'll share the logos on the cast. So if it's terrible, or your kid does it with crayon, don't care. We'll run a little slideshow. As you see, we're getting good at the slideshows. We'll put that on the show, and we'll pick one. Somebody gets $25 to spend at the store. And then another portmanteau, that is introduced this week is...
Siglerbrations, is that the one?
See, I accidentally read it as Siglerbation. I'm like, that's not this. No, wait, who came up with this? Siglerbration, a Siglerbration. Tell them about the Siglerbration.
So I have been asking you over and over and over again to send in holidays you want to celebrate, all that sort of stuff. And last SIGLERinPLACE on Tuesday, something great happened. You guys for whatever reason, just started pitching in like, my mama's birthday's on Thursday, my wife's birthday's August 5th, things like that. And those are not days that we have a Sigler in place. Robin, I know you're in the chat room. Thank you. You were the one person who were looking on Tuesday and Thursday of all the notes that I got. That said, I love that, right? Like, we're locked down, not really celebrating exactly the same way as we would have. Like, I had a crazy birthday this year, but I'm definitely not going to have a birthday in a lockdown that's the same as non-lockdown. So now I'm saying, I don't care. Whatever we're celebrating, whatever day it is, if it's not on a Tuesday or Thursday, we'll celebrate it right before it happens or right after it happens or whatever. I always ask this. I would vastly prefer that you send any questions, any celebrations, any drink ideas, any of that to info@emptyset.com. That said, I'm a person of the people, and how this works best is when I ask for it, you guys put it in the chat right here. So at the end of every Sigler in Place, I just started doing this last Thursday. I take pictures of the entire chat stream. I just shoot them from the screen onto my phone, and I go through them and I pick out the questions and the celebrations and the suggestions. So you can put them here. It's vastly easy for me if you send it to info@emptyset, but we're going to do it either way. And I just saw it scroll by, but I don't know who asked it. Somebody asked if we're shipping books yet. So I'm just going to drop, before we move on, I'm just going to say, we are not shipping books because we can't print the books. So our plan is to release the digital versions.
We can't print
the GFL.
The GFL 6.
Yes.
Do we still have the other GFL books?
Oh, yeah. We're shipping everything else that we possess, and that's for sale in the store. I don't know, and I don't know who actually asked it because it scrolled by too fast. But if you're asking specifically about the Gangster, I have no idea when we're going to physically ship that book because I don't know when we can get it printed.
Before we get sidetracked, let's get to our Sigler.
Siglerbration.
Siglerbration. Siglerbation is
today
a
is the 9th,
completely different thing, you guys.
And my understanding is tomorrow is the McArdles' 27th wedding anniversary.
Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary to you. Happy 27th anniversary, McArdles. Happy anniversary to you. Yeah.
And many more.
And many more. But not too many, because if it's 182, you would be undead crypt keepers. And nobody wants to see the undead celebrate a wedding anniversary because it's kind of gross. That's the second verse, for those of you who didn't know about it.
It's like this all the time. It's like this all the time.
Here we go.
There's another one.
What?
On Monday, our good pal, Danny the Dolphin Lundy, starts a new job, I believe.
Hey,
so
buddy.
Congratulations to you for that.
Hey, buddy. You're going to start a new job? Don't tell me I'm starting a new job, guy. Danny Lundy, the world's famous dolphin from the Galactic Football League series. If you haven't read the Galactic Football League series, I don't know what to tell you, but go to scottsigler.com/store and just, buy them all. And ebook, print book, whatever the hell you want. We've got 21 minutes left, and I think as shocker, when we started talking about the booze, time got away from us.
Yeah, happens a lot.
Happens a lot. It's very common around here. It usually happens right before Siglerbation. So we are now moving on to...
Definitely going to regret that, aren't I? I'm for sure going to regret that. I blame Beth Copenhaver because she made up Siglocktails, and I was like, okay, Siglerbrations.
Danny Lundy, people in the comments are saying they don't know what you actually look like. So what I would like you to do is email your best dolphin-related Danny Lundy picture to info@emptyset.com.
Isn't it that line? Isn't the Pondy line drawing? Is that a Pondy line?
I think it's Pondy. I want Danny Lundy to celebrate his new job. Preferably, if you can take your dolphin picture at your new job and send it to us. Hopefully, you'll be there and nobody's looking when you take this picture. Let me go back. I would like you to take a picture of people are looking because I don't want to think about what kind of Siglerbation picture you're going to send.
Siglerbration. I'm changing it. I'm definitely changing the name, you guys. I'm for sure changing the name.
Okay, here we go. We have questions. Oh, we got questions. We got a guy with a suit that has too many colors and red question marks shooting out of his butt, and he's very confused. Yeah. This question, I have a brand new ring walk-up. I'm very proud of this one. I've actually started to put these into the scripts. representing Benjamin Franklin High School and hailing from Los Angeles, California, with a record of 15 wins and 2 losses. The 2 losses coming from disqualifications due to biting. It's Martyn Jumpin Jehoshaphat Evans. And his question A.
His question was, it was a wedding related question.
We just got hitched, the two of us.
Yeah, in case that is you, I put a ring on it, apparently. The question is, which one of you giggled at the in sickness and in health part? And I'm going to start.
Okay.
Because I am... Oh, I don't know how to say this without saying the thing that you don't want me to say. My brother is in the chat room. He can attest. I have not always been the healthiest person. I have a congenital kidney defect, so I've kind of been no Siglerbation, damn it. So I've kind of been the runt of the litter my whole life is what I say, and he hates when I say that. But I had a congenital kidney defect that wasn't diagnosed until I was 3 years old, so I spent a whole lot of time as an infant quite sick. I have some sleep disorders. Like I said, I've had skin cancer. I've had a handful of things go wrong. So for me, the entire time I've known Scott, before we were dating, before like we were just working together, all that stuff, I have always been less optimal.
I call it compromised.
Yeah. So that said, I think the in sickness and health is definitely a heavier burden for him. At the same time, we didn't have traditional vows because a lot of those are, I think, a little bit archaic. I am definitely against, or I don't prefer in my wedding. I didn't want in my wedding anything about obeying because I think that is not a thing you do because you're commanded to. I think that's a thing, like you honor the relationship you have and that kind of thing. So we didn't have traditional vows as such. So while I laugh at it and think he got the raw end of the deal in the sickness and the health thing, we didn't technically talk about that, but I feel like I'm the lucky one.
Yeah, my first draft was worship me like the royal wizard of the Western Hemisphere. And that got shot down.
Well, I never saw his vows, but I would have walked out of camp. I would have walked off the frame. I just would have walked right out of frame.
Kelly McCardle was sharp enough to notice that, yes, this is a new ring. We have tried 2 rings.
We've got it sorted now.
2 rings to fit me, but apparently I'm very difficult size to fit. So this actually is one of A's rings, and it fit perfect. So I'm like, this is dope. I can type with it. Everything's cool.
And I got a matching one. I got it. So I also have a Sigler ring.
Wonder
silver
twin
ring.
powers activate. Form of
I'm
a
definitely
puddle of water, because I'm the dude in the Wonder Twins. Form of a puddle of dirty water with some white froth on the side and perhaps a paramecium or 2. Fear me, evil people. All right.
What about you, though? The sickness and the health?
No, I also did not mention sickness or health due to the aforementioned reasons. Also, I want to jazz it up a little bit, I want to be like, oh, snap, I want to get married to you.
He did not say put a ring on it at all.
I went old-timey's, late 20s, early 30s. I went, want to get married to you. I take you to be my wife. Shibba-doop-boop, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-doop-boop, shibba-doop-boop, wow, I do. That's exactly how it went down.
Now, here's the thing. Oh, Steve, I love that. Steve Bickle says, form of something stupid, shape of something useless.
Yes. Well, she gets to be form of a grizzly with adamantium teeth that farts lightning. Like, I hated that cartoon when I was a kid.
Well, Kent says, I didn't have obey in my vows, but I obeyed anyway. And that's the big point there. Like this whole thing that we're doing only works if we're in it to win it. And if you're not, if you have to be told or commanded, that's a difficult, for me anyway, that's a little bit of a difficult thing. So
keep talking. I got to cue this up.
I will also say, somebody asked, I think we'll probably talk about this again, but somebody asked, how's our honeymoon going? And
you're looking at it.
We went back to work the next day.
With you guys.
Yeah, we went back to work the next day because, we're staying safe. We also, we've said this before, we had 5 people in the house for the first time in 4 months. We had guests over and we had 5 people help us pull this off in the house. And so we've been locked down since then. Okay. We have until Saturday. So
now we are finally going to move on to A's story about Irann. And
Lord.
To set the stage for this, we're going to talk about a mammal known as a javelina. And a javelina, to understand what went down, I feel I need to foreshadow for those of you who are not from Texas or Arkansas to see what an actual, swappy-doo, I'll take one of those too. So now I'm going to show you what a javelina is. Now, I was told when A had this incident, she was said, well, I hit a little pig. And
A fuzzy pig.
a little fuzzy pig. And I'm like, what, you murdered Piglet? This is bad. This is bad for karma. We're going to lose book sales. So now we're going to show you guys, this is a wild animal, the javelina. Hold on, let me get the volume up. This is what they look like. I want you to pay attention to how fast this sumbitch runs.
Oh, keep going. Keep going, buddy.
And look at how giant that fuzzy
That's a
pig
lot of
is.
meat on the hoof right there, dog.
Dude.
One more time. This,
Keep going. Keep going, buddy.
when A tells
Get
a
it.
story about something coming out of nowhere, this 42 mile an hour machine murdering animal.
Yeah. So we talked about this last summer. You would have heard some things if probably all of you guys who are always here in the chat room have done this, know us well enough that you know that last summer I had a little bit of a sojourn that I wasn't intending to have. I was on my way 4th of July weekend. So right now, last year, I might have been in Austin visiting my good friends Jennifer and Shannon and hanging out with their daughter and their mama and mama and mother-in-law. So I went with my two dogs. Scott was going to, I think, his 30th high school reunion or something. Like, you were gone somewhere, and I drove. I thought I would drive because I liked the car and I wanted to go on the dog road trip with the dogs, and we just got the van and all that stuff. I was going to drive to visit my friends in Austin. And I was about 4 hours away. It was about an 18-hour drive. It was 6 a.m. and I was on a 2-lane, actually, I guess 4 lanes, the 2 lanes on one side.
This is how
median.
this is how our screenplay starts out, by the way. 6 a.m. on a 2-lane highway through West Texas.
Singing along to the radio. The dogs were seat belted into the way back bench on the van, and I was driving and singing and having a fine time. And this is the one accident like this I've ever been in. It happened instantaneously. I saw something sort of out of the corner of my eye, kind of come from the left, come from the median, and then the car went, and I was like, oh, I think I hit something. And I knew from, I don't know, movies or TV or whatever, like, cool, look at the dashboard because you're going to get warning signs and stuff. And I looked and I was like, maybe that's fine. And then literally every noise and every light the van could make, it made. And it like screamed in my face, like, ah!
I picture this as like an episode of Battlestar Galactica where Starbucks like, oh, I think the shot's missing.
Yeah. And instantly, so that was all happening, and I was like pulling over to the side of the road or trying to like, okay, because I don't want to seize the engine or what have you. And my tiny dog Squeaky, who you've seen on the cast a bunch, she's a 12-pound min pin. She was harnessed and seat belted into the bench in the back, and she jumped into my lap completely naked. So she was so scared that she got out of her collar and her harness to jump into my lap. So I pulled over and I was like, okay. And I got out of the car, and then I called AAA, or I tried to call AAA, but I didn't have any connection because I was, I think, 86 miles east of El Paso, Texas, which is in the middle of nowhere. I was about 90 miles south of Midland, Odessa, which is definitely a hoppin' town, but also kind of in the middle of nowhere. And I ended up in a town called Irann. And it's called Irann, and it's spelled Iran, and it's a mining or oil town. It was a company town built for Ira and Ann Yates so that they could house folks who worked in their oil field.
Okay.
Now it is a one main street, one stoplight.
Oh, yes. Let's take a quick look at this is downtown Irann.
Because I can't see those pictures of you if I'm on the other
You know
camera.
what? I can do this. Hold on. I got you covered, dog.
So this is the main street of Irann. I took this photo on my everyday walk. I walked This was about halfway. I had 1 mile that I would walk from my hotel. So state trooper pulled across the highway and came back to me because he drives every morning at 6 a.m. to see if anybody has hit any animals and they're on the road. And he saw me and he pulled around. He said, "Are you okay? Are your dogs okay? Do you need water?" He was great. His name was Tyler. And Ryan, sorry. And he called the guy who I was trying to get in touch with AAA. He's like, "Oh, you have AAA? That's okay. I'll call TJ because that's the one guy who will come help me." So TJ came out, got my car towed to a shop. Thank you, an auto shop.
The auto shop. In Iran.
Actually, there were two.
Oh, there were.
But he picked the one. He looked at which one would be open on the 5th of July because it was the 4th of July, and the 5th was a Friday, and so he brought me to that one. Just left my car there. Dropped me off at the hotel, which was called the Mesa Inn. And I checked in there. I was there for, I did take a 4-day sojourn to Austin to see my friends. But I was there about 3 weeks, almost a little less than 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was,
the punchline.
What was the punchline?
You got to wait for that. You've been there 3 weeks.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Well, it's been 3 weeks. The guy picks her up, takes to the repair shop. And this is one of the things that when she first got on the phone with me, she said, he's like, "Well, there's 2 hotels in town. I'm going to take you to the good part of town."
The good part of town. So this is actually at the end of the 1 mile road. And way in the distance there, you see mountain ranges. And what you can't quite see is the entrance to the highway because there's no overpass. It's just entrance to the highway. So it was so hot. And I was so ill prepared to be stuck in a tiny little town. I tried to rent a car. No car rental agencies. I tried to eat that day, but it was the 4th of July and the 3 restaurants were closed. So I finally...
What happened when you went to get cash, eh?
There was no ATM. It got installed in the time that I was there, so now it has an ATM. But at the time, it didn't have an ATM. So I had cash. I ate from like the Quickie Mart at the gas station that day, and I got food for the dogs. They had a great time because I could only get canned chicken, so they were very pleased with that. Anyway, it was interesting for me. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I grew up in New York, and I will tell you that I learned in that time I am absolutely not good with isolation. It was so hard for me because it was so hot, and I couldn't rent a car. There was no car rental agency. I couldn't pay anybody to drive me to Midland, Odessa. I eventually called
which is 80 miles away. Is that right?
About that. I eventually called a shuttle service in Midland, Odessa, and paid them to drive down a shuttle bus to pick me up and drive me all the way back to the airport so I could rent a car so I could go visit Jen and Shannon and not lose my whole mind.
Speaking of heat.
Yeah, so this is them. This is the room that we stayed in. We were there for, like I said, almost 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
And those are flowers that Scott sent after I got back from Austin, and I was losing my mind.
The most expensive flowers I've ever sent in my life.
And not only that, the people I got to know, the front desk women, the women who ran the place, and the pool was closed because it was full of some sort of slime. But as the sun went down, they would bring beer and hang out and sit with their feet in the pool. And I was like, and they invited me at one point. They came and knocked on my door with that bunch of flowers, and they were so surprised. They were like, I don't think I've ever seen flowers delivered here.
I had to hire someone from Odessa to drive the flowers. I did say, hey, by the way, would you, can I throw in some extra money and you drive her back here? Because the problem was she had to stay there for the car.
Right. So I had the car. The thing is, and this will sound like the shop was not trustworthy, and that is not the case. The shop was great. I worked a lot with a mechanic named Victor who sent me Christmas greetings and New Year's greetings, actually, because we became not exactly friends, but confidants, I guess. And I would go down there every day, and it was a function of, interestingly enough, it's a newish car. It was a 2017, so all the manuals are online, but since the manuals are online, they don't always necessarily get updated. So if something changes from run to run, like happened with me, a lot of the parts are made of plastic to make the car overall lighter. And so he would order the part that it looked like he needed because a lot of the car was shattered on the highway because it was plastic. Mm-hmm. And then it would show up and it would be not quite
How
right
long
because there were
would
like
it take
2 or
to
3.
get there every time he did this cycle?
Every time we did it, it took 3 to 5 days to get the part that we wanted. So every single time we thought, and I literally would go down to the shop and work online to find the parts while they were trying to figure out what to do. Like I did that like 4 times, which is crazy pants when you think about it. But small town, and everybody was really nice. And eventually, but every time we'd order a part, we would think, cool, this is the last step. So it turned out to be like 3 weeks of your car will be done Tuesday. Your car will be done Thursday. Your car will definitely be done Friday. Oh, it'll be definitely done on Tuesday, you know? And it wasn't for lack of trying, but that's how it happened. I will tell you another super creepy thing, which absolutely wasn't creepy.
This is going in the screenplay. It's creepy. It's creepy.
Except not to them, right? It's this tiny town where everybody knows everybody. And I'm the big news that happened on the 4th of July, right? And so I would get up at 6 a.m. before the sun got really high in the sky, and I would walk the dogs because I didn't have booties for them, and the asphalt was like 108 or 117 degrees. This was our room for 3 weeks. You see that window? After 8 a.m., I had to keep that window closer, or the little wall air conditioner just couldn't keep up.
We have some pictures of sad dogs. But
Yeah,
tell,
and the
tell
dogs
them
are pissed.
tell them the creepy part.
So I would get up at 6 a.m., walk the dogs, go back inside, close the window, stay there all day, and I would leave the room at 8 or 8:30 and walk the dogs the mile down to the other side of the main street where there was a grocery store. And I think it was the second or third day I walked in, and the woman at the register said, "Are you A? You're A, right? You're the girl who hit the pig, who done hit the pig.
You're the girl who done hit the pig."
And I, coming from a big city, I was completely creeped out. But she immediately was like, bring those dogs in and tie them to the ice machine. Don't leave them tied out outside. Because the ice machine, of course, in like most grocery stores, was right by the front door.
I would like to point out, this picture is not the corpse of the pig. Those are our 2 tiny dogs.
No, and not only that, that is Reese and I the morning that, like, right when we got on got back on the road from the little break that we took, headed to Austin. It was maybe 30 minutes before I hit the javelina. But so anyway, I did that, and then do you have the picture of the Saturday night thing?
It's coming up. It's coming up.
So Irann, Texas also is the hometown of the comic strip Alley Oop. So that's Dinny the dinosaur. Alley Oop is a time traveling caveman.
Yep.
Or something.
Cigar chomping, time traveling caveman.
And
with
there's
a
a
brontosaurus.
Fantasyland. There's an entire
Fantasyland.
An entire park of things.
She told me she's stuck in Irann. She's like, yeah, but there's a thing here called Fantasyland. Well, it can't be that bad. I mean, it's like got an amusement park. Fantasyland, I think, I don't have these pictures in order, but...
so that's them very stressed out, like, mom.
They spent 3 weeks in a tiny hotel room.
So this is the hotel room I was in before I paid the shuttle to come get me and take me to Midland, Odessa. Had I known that it would be 3 weeks, I would not have probably gone back to Irann. What actually happened is Scott was in Michigan. He was always supposed to meet me in Austin, and we were going to drive back together. And he did that anyway, but he drove me in a rental car back to the rental car I got in Midland, Odessa. He took me from Austin after we saw Jen and Shannon, and we drove back to Irann, and he left me there. And then he drove the car back to Midland, Odessa Airport and flew home.
It's very
because he had
desolate.
Comic-Con coming.
Very desolate trip. This is a stressed out dog who's like, Mom, this place is hotter than elephant balls in August, Mom, please.
And she's sitting on the ladder to Alley Oop the dinosaur. That's a big concrete dinosaur right behind her, and she was having none of it.
So Fantasyland has the Irann Museum, which covers all of the mining history and the history of the guy who drew Alley Oop, and it appears to be, it's very small, but a lot of cool stuff. And it was closed. Tell them why it was closed, eh?
Which was closed?
The museum.
Oh, yes, because Edna, the caretaker, had gone into an assisted living facility in Fort Collins, Fort Stockton. And so they were trying to find a proprietor who would open it. And they thought maybe on a Tuesday afternoon somebody would do it, but that never happened the whole time I was there.
So the museum's closed because the one lady who ran it for decades went into an old folks home and nobody else wants to run it. That's
Denny the dinosaur.
This is all that is in Fantasyland. It is a 40-foot long concrete brontosaurus apparently with fangs. Don't get pissy with me. paleontologist. And it is very big. We'll show you how big in a moment.
Trevor, you're totally right. Mom, can we leave? Mom.
It's super hot. Did I mention the elephant balls in August? Mom's hot.
So that's me. Actually, that was Shannon was great. So I was good. Like I say, I have said it several times. I was going to visit my friends Jen and Shannon, who are here in the chat room, and Shannon was like, "Dude, there is a dinosaur in that town," and she was such a cheerleader because I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not cut out for that kind of isolation. I did not do well, and she was like, "You must go. You must go." So I went once. This was probably 7:30 at night or something, and it was 1,000,000,000 degrees. And I went and I tried to send a picture to Shannon, like, "Cool, I did this. I'm going back home to cry." So
this is some more scenic shots. This is the view outside of the hotel of Irann.
Yep.
As you can see, it's a bustling metropolis.
That you see those 2 cypress trees. That is a level 4 trauma center in West Texas, and that's because it's easy and flat. So people fly if they have accidents from all over. There's a helicopter pad there. I actually went since I was there. I was away longer than I expected, and I take 49 years old. I take a handful of medications. I actually went across to the trauma center and like, "Cool, I'm running out of my scripts. Can you help me?" And they were great. They were like, "We can, but it's so expensive. But what we can do instead is we can fill the scripts we have to fill. But also we'll give you these, go to the grocery store and buy like this allergy medication or this whatever, and you'll make do until you get home." And that totally worked. They were very nice. Everybody in Irann was super duper nice. This is the road where I hit the javelina on my way out of town. I will say when I hit the javelina and the state trooper pulled over, he went to look at the front of my car and it was like, "Yep, that was probably a javelina."
What does javelina fur look like to you, eh?
Oh, well, I'm getting there. So he was like, "Yep, that's probably a javelina." And then he walked to the back of the car and he was like, Yep, definitely a javelina. And I go to the back of the van, and I don't know if this is a swear jar thing or not.
No, it's an actual scientific thing. It's fine.
But definitely cover children's ears, because the whole back of the van, I hit the javelina in the front left, and the whole back of the van covered in pubic hair.
Pubes. Car's covered in pubes.
And I say, like, he says, "Yep, definitely a javelina," because and he is going to say, because this is the, like the pubes, but he realizes that we don't know each other, but it doesn't matter because I instantly, it's like, "Is that pubic hair? What is that?" He's like, "Yeah, it's bristly little hair." And I guess the aerodynamics get it like over the top of the car, and then it's all over the back.
See, now what he should have said, "Well, looks like you hit him right in the balls," because pubes all over the place.
But so yeah, this is Fort Stockton. I was right. So this is actually on the way back to Irann, I think. But so anyway, there was one day, I think if you scroll through, we'll see this. This is
this is when I went
Scott
to
dropping me off and on Denny the dinosaur.
That's me riding herd on Denny the dinosaur. And here we go. We'll finish with this story, and this will finish it up. Here we go.
Y'all.
So let me set the stage. You were there for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I had the sojourn I had gone to visit Shannon and Jen. We got to go to Fairy Garden in Austin. You came and it brought me back and dropped the car off, so I didn't pay the $300 drop fee. And then
go ahead.
So I am there. This is the weekend before I leave. And all I am doing now is waiting for the car to be finished so I can drive home. And this shows up outside the grocery store on Friday night. And I'm like, fuck yes.
I'll pay that swear jar. I'm on it.
I'm doing this Saturday night dance party at the Hut Sports Bar and Grill. I'm doing this 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. I will talk to people. Back then I could talk to people. Ray Musical sounds awesome. DJ Santiago sounds awesome. I am ready. Yeah. I could not find the Hut Sports Bar and Grill anywhere within a 100-mile radius. So I asked the cashier who I was friendly with at the grocery store, and she was like, "Well, I mean, there's that bar over on First Street, that Saturday bar." And I was like, "Well, okay, what's the Saturday bar?" Thinking it was somehow a bar called Saturday. And no, somebody like opened their backyard with a bar, which I don't even think is legal, on Saturday nights. So I went to First Street thinking maybe that's the Hut. I never found it. The sign was gone on Sunday. So somebody had a party at a place called the Hut Sports Bar and Grill, but I never got to go.
3 weeks in Irann, there was no restaurants to eat at. When I went there, it was still it was around the ballpark. It was
around maybe this time or next week.
A had to walk across really hot pavement to go anywhere, to walk the dogs. They had a very limited area they could walk because their little tiny feet were not cut out for this. And it took 3 weeks to get the car fixed, and she was stranded there for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
This is the way the dogs looked after the first week. As you can see, that's not a happy dog.
Reese was not happy because she wanted to go out. She could hear people outside. She's so friendly, and it was just too hot. And everybody was like everybody, my friends, my family, Scott, everybody was like, okay, have you thought about like renting a car? Like,
yeah. And then people offered to fly in to help her, except they would have to fly in to
Midland, Odessa. So I had 2 people say, I'll come hang out with you. I can get to Midland, Odessa. Can you pick me up? They'd be like, if I could pick you up in Midland, Odessa, I would fly home.
She sounds very calm right now, but when she was sharing the story with me, it was not quite as calm. And
It was very difficult.
That is
so
it.
we'll
Let's go
wrap
back to
up
the
quick,
main.
but I will tell you that I am.
I gotta move this back over here.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on. No worries. Here we go. Boop, 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 and boom. Hello, everybody.
I will tell you, one of the best thing that came out. I have 3 take-home lessons from going to Austin and getting stuck in Irann. One is that I now know about myself that I am not good with isolation. I lose my executive function, I'll say. I am bad at showering. I'm bad at feeding myself. And this is super personal, but it's still true. I'm bad at that when I'm not doing anything. And the internet was so terrible because there had been a thunderstorm and it had knocked something out and they were going to put in cable. I don't know. But I either had to go I could talk on my phone, but I had to be standing in the lobby of the hotel. And if I was in the lobby of the hotel, I couldn't look at my computer or use the internet on my phone because it wasn't good enough. And I had to be at the router that was by my room. So I could use the computer in my room or my cell phone at the front desk, but I couldn't do both at the same time. So I was super unproductive and I was terrible at that. The second thing I learned is it's good to have a friend like Scott, because Scott was like, I'm coming anyway. I was coming to Austin anyway. I'm coming to Austin. If I get to Austin, have to rent a car, drive 4 hours and pick you up, I will do that. And the third thing I learned is if you are a good friend, you have good friends, because Jen and Shannon said the same thing. I'll just come get you. And I was like, no, that's an 8-hour drive. You have a tiny child and I'm just going to have to come back. But it was comforting to have people in my corner when I wasn't in my own corner. So
as if the heat and the isolation and the lack of civilization, the lack of an ATM, the lack of cell phone service and the lack of internet access and the inability to get out of there and waiting for the car wasn't bad enough. When I went to visit and she was delighted to have someone there finally to hang out with and talk to as we try to work through this problem. We took the dogs for a walk near the pool in the official dog walk. They had a dog walking area, little tiny fenced in area.
Oh gosh.
And as we are walking through there, you can see in A's eyes, she's finally got that sense of like, well, this isn't over, but at least I get a breather. I get a reprieve. I can let someone else work on all the problems and I can just effing relax for a little bit. We walk and we're walking around the dog pen and she's like, oh, I think there's something crawling on me. She had stepped in a fire ant hill and oh my God, her leg was out of control. It wasn't on there for very long. We brushed them off, but sure enough, on top of everything else, we go back to the hotel room and her leg is full of red welts and is swelling up. And she was.
And remember,
not happy.
I must have had
they're all up around your waist.
Yeah,
too.
I must have. When I did that,
son.
I mostly wear dresses, but of course, like I said, my executive function was a little bit off, so I would like go out and walk in my like PJ pants or whatever, and I must have brought a handful of fire ants back in with me because I got. And that was the day you left, right? So that happened. And then I got bitten. And I like right around here, I stopped counting at 84 bites.
Yep.
So I had them all over my legs. And then I had that. And I was like, okay, I'm never going back to West Texas again. Never.
Martyn Joseph said 3 weeks in Irann. Sounds like a good movie title. Martyn, we have one working on. It's called 4th of July in Irann. It involves semi-sentient javelinas.
Yeah.
A concrete dinosaur that comes to life.
Oil fields,
and then a lot of money, human sacrifice, and also there's a cult.
Should we tell them about the legend of Irann?
The real legend or the
real legend?
Story? No. Okay. We'll save it for another time. I have we're going to say goodbye with this. In researching this and trying to find some video on Irann, apparently there's a conspiracy theory that says there is a giant underground city below Irann, and all the people you see in Irann are fake actors hired by the city council to make it look like a normal small town.
Yeah.
People are crazy. Yeah.
I will say Joshua Garr wins the comments because he just posted "Don't mess with."
Texas. It's America's version of Australia. That's
Yeah.
all right. We're gonna say goodbye. I think there anything you want to cover?
So this was my take home message. I now know there are things that I can't do, and one of the things that was the hardest for me was if I could get on the internet. So like I couldn't stream anything, for example. So it was rare that I could sort of actually connect. And the internet, and especially like Facebook and social media, is full of people trying to be soundbite funny or soundbite serious or something like that. And I was so desperate for interaction that it was very difficult for me to check in, like to say something and have someone be flip, even though that's the way the internet works. So now a year on, I can look back and sort of see like people were they were being themselves and they were just kind of being on brand and trying to be lighthearted. But all of that really was super difficult for me because I was like, sure, you have all the internet you want and you're doing this shit with it. So now I'm a little more patient. I still think that much of social media is a cesspool, but I'm a little more patient because I understand better than I ever have before the idea that what you do on the internet is not your real life. And so I'm glad about that because especially this summer, that's a good lesson to have learned.
All right, we'll finish up. Martyn Joseph Evans gets yet another shout out. I said that Texas is the Australia of America. He said that now the U.S. is the Florida of the world. So that's a very good one. Send your ideas for Sigler in Place, ideas for bits, ideas for questions. Send that to
Siglebrations.
Send those to info@emptyset.com. Don't forget the contest. You can come up with a logo for Siglocktails.
Somebody asked when the deadline for that is.
Oh, that's a good, I hadn't thought of that. I would say the deadline for that is let's shoot, what is this, Thursday?
Yeah.
Let's shoot, get them into me by Monday. This doesn't have to be Monday. What would that date be? Well, this is the 9th. 10th, 11th, 12th,
13th.
The 13th. Get them in by Monday the 13th. They get up sent to info@emptyset.com. We want you to stay safe, stay smart.
And stay science. Wait, Shannon says, I'm sorry you got stuck there, but I'm so thankful you came. And I will say this, after all that lessons, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm still glad I did it too.
Yes, you had fire ants in your crotch. I think that you would definitely do that. We'll be back on Tuesday, July 14th, hopefully with some Siglocktail graphics to show you, funny or serious, whatever you want. And Tuesday the 14th is
Mac and Cheese
National Mac and Cheese Day. If we play our cards right, A may make some mac and cheese and we can eat it right on this show. Stay safe, stay smart, stay science, wear your mask. It's not a joke. You're awesome. And now we're going to go over here and let's see if I can cue this up. Big dating game kiss. Mwah!